represents like either in between or transition, because some people identify as no gender, some people identify as both. So this is representative of, I guess, the gender and how it's a spectrum as opposed to very binary, as we're led to believe as we grow. When you turn the flag, whichever way, you can put up, down, always stay the same. And that's a strategic, it's a strategic reminder that gender is very fluid and something that isn't set in stone. It can change throughout your life. Even people we've met, from week to week, especially in Aboriginal culture, which is something that has to be brought up and celebrated. And so we've got our Newfoundland flag also, and LGBT pride flag, which I'm sure everybody has seen before, which is the rainbow.
I think it's a symbolic thing to bring all three of these flags, because in my case I can relate to all three flags. And yes, trans people may be different in some ways, but we're just like everyone else in many other ways as well. And I think it's great to be able to say we have trans people in Newfoundland, and that we can book events in towns all over the map and have people interested to come out and genuinely, I guess, learn more about this and celebrate the successes, as well as figure out how we can, I guess, carry on with you're the camera person.
This has been my job all day.
I'm going to dig out my notes.
Definitely. So Jennifer's just going to go through like a brief description of what the Trans Day of Remembrance or TDOR is, and like how it was established and how it's grown over the past
You're also
few
going to
years.
shoot a few of me, okay? Well, I'm telling people what to do.
Then she'll probably go through a few addresses from politicians throughout our country. We asked them to come forward to either attend or deliver statements as well, and some of them did volunteer with that.
Yes.
Alright. So the information Jennifer's about to give you about the Trans Day of Remembrance is in your program if you wanted to either look at it now or read it later.
Should have the agenda memorized by now, but I mean, I guess before we start, I guess this is, a particularly special event, given that it's the last one of the day, and as what has perhaps been a groundbreaking type of day. Transgender Day of Remembrance events are being held all over the world today and this week, in as many as probably 40 countries, perhaps 500 to 600 cities and towns, and it's quite unique to be able to say that we held 5 events in 5 towns, in a variety of parts of this province, a province that perhaps is traditionally not known for trans issues or trans education and awareness. The fact that we threw this together at the last minute and still have so many people, we have trans people, we have families, we have allies, we have television, newspapers, you name it, they've all come and they've been welcoming. And I kind of lost my train of thought. I tend to throw humor into my conversations. But, I mean, run through the history there. Transgender Day of Remembrance was created by a lady named Gwendolyn Smith in California in 1998 when her best friend, a trans woman, was murdered because she was trans. And word got around that I guess this memorial event occurred to the point that it just sort of caught on and grew to the point that it's now gone from a day to a week. It's gone from just remembering the dead to looking at some of the people who are still alive and dealing with some of the, I guess, the issues they face. And I guess a brief history of Trans Day of Remembrance for me, it was just 2 years ago. I've been living in St. John's, I guess, for 7 years. In the first 5 years, there'd never been a Transgender Remembrance event that I was aware of. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go in front of Kathy Dunderdale's office and invite the media. And it worked. It was freezing just like it is now, but we probably had 25 people show up and made the 6 o'clock news. It just sort of evolved from there. Now we've got several people in St. John's organizing trans events this week, which was kind of great because I didn't have to do all the work, and I can start opening some new doors. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. I recognize that I'm known for my trans history, and people expect me to talk about that. At the same time, I've been fighting so hard to be recognized for all the other things I like to do in my life. Run marathons, bitch at the government, go swimming in the pond when it's freezing, or cuddle with my cats. And I guess ultimately we're here to do a bit of both, raise education awareness as well as, I guess, introduce you to trans people, including myself and this cameraman, the trans man, who doesn't have a lot to say. Politics. It's been a tough couple of years for the trans community, kind of being thrown around like political pawns. And we've seen arguments at the federal level as well as several provinces debating whether or not we deserve to receive recognition in the human rights codes. And we have finally seen a pendulum flow in a different direction here after years of rejection by the Conservative government. Minister Darren King, Minister of Justice, announced that he was planning to add gender identity and gender expression to the Newfoundland Provincial Human Rights Act. It's something I know the NDP's been asking for a long time, and I know that there's some support from the Liberal. So I believe right now we have support from all political parties, all political stripes, and it's no longer a political issue, it's a human rights issue. And I think that's very exciting. I emailed as many of these folks as I could and invited them to attend. What I do have is some brief statements to read from some key political figures and who double as activists for trans rights as well. Again, I should probably have all these memorized by now. But we'll start with Minister Charlene Johnson, who's the minister responsible for the Violence Prevention Initiative. And she oversees the Women's Policy Office and has been, I guess, a true supporter of trans rights over the years, even when it wasn't necessarily politically correct to do so. And she writes on behalf of the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, we support the right of all citizens to live in a place that's free from violence, discrimination, and inequality. This event is important as it raises public awareness of the challenges and the violence that can be experienced by the trans community. Events like this also remind us to pay respect to those who've lost their lives, to also pay respect to those who are working hard. All Newfoundlanders have a right to live, learn, and work in an environment free from fear and harm. Which is so true. I had people say, don't go to Springdale, Jennifer, you're going to get shot. I said, well, I gotta take that chance. Somebody has to.
Oh, probable.
Yeah, and
those are the words they use to describe themselves too,
Yeah.
endearingly.
they did. We're the Bible Belt out here.
Grew up there.
Oh, did you?
I left after getting preached about a few dozen times.
Wow. All right, the NDP has championed not just trans but LGBT rights and many other type of rights. Jack Harris is a federal NDP member in St. John's East. He says he'd like to join in support of International Trans Day of Remembrance for those who lost their lives due to violence and suicide. I can't read my own writing, even though I've already read this 5 times today. It's a sad reflection on the failure to understand and appreciate humanity, trans people, the difficult challenges they face simply for being themselves. express hope that in time there'll be better understanding of trans community and recognition of the rights, equality, and non-discrimination. Put an end to transphobia. Jerry Rogers is perhaps best known as the first out lesbian elected to a Newfoundland government entity. She's the justice critic who's worked really hard on trans issues, including tabling questions for several years about the human rights thing. She says, "I'm very excited that government's introduced a bill to amend the Human Rights Act to include gender identity and gender expression. It's a result of a lot of hard work from the community, and I'm proud to have been a part of that work. Hopefully by Thursday we'll be debating this in the House. Within the next week or so we'll have a new Human Rights Act. Congratulations everyone, let's celebrate the hard work, and let's also move on to work towards the needs in terms of the healthcare needs of the trans folks." I'd also like to, I applaud the incredible work by Jennifer McCreath in her persistence that these issues are important and that they remain the voices of the trans community for all. And now, if I can find, here's an interesting little scoop for the media. There's a coalition of former NDPers who are now sitting as independents, Dale Kirby and Chris Mitchellmore, who were asked if they would like to provide statements, and they decided to submit a joint statement together,
Oh,
which I thought was
I'll tell Jerry to put that down one of them.
so. This is Dale and Chris Mitchellmore. On this Trans Day of Remembrance, we ask to recall the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." As we remember those who have lost their lives to trans violence, remember too that love can and will overcome hate. On this day, we recommit ourselves to working to achieve equality, fairness, and dignity for all trans people in Newfoundland, Labrador. There's one more. It was only 2 years ago that Kristen Malloy became the first openly trans person to seek political office at the federal level in a riding outside of Toronto. She wrote a lovely speech that I read a couple years ago, but I'm regurgitating it. Now that I myself am a failed political candidate, I can also utter these exact same words. I ran for political office not because I'm trans, but because there's some things I wanted to stand up for, something I believe in. Never accept limits imposed on us by others. Increased visibility in mainstream society will bring better understanding and more acceptance, and will hopefully lead to the end of transphobia. And that brings us... do you want to speak some more, Sarah?
I sure can.
You're the official special guest.
Well, thank you.
So let's turn the floor over to an amazing person, a well-known LGBT run for political office, interestingly enough, and also a former Miss Newfoundland International, the first open LGBT person in North America to win such an honor. So we have someone even more famous.
Hi, my name is Sarah Downey. I'm here today mostly to support my partner Jacob. I've been doing LGBT activist work probably since high school when I turned around a program called iFlirts that you've probably seen in your high schools that now has to ask an orientation question, because when a female wanted to match with a female, she had to say she was male. So that was probably my first flick into the activism side of things. Basically, I'm here today to show you, as someone who is not a transgender person, that you don't have to be trans to help educate and be a leader within your community. I grew up in a small town, about an hour outside of St. John's that had a lot of closed-minded views. And living with a partner who's transgender, we had a few obstacles to face. It actually resulted in us moving to a bigger city. Basically, what the Trans Day of Remembrance wants to teach us is that there is a lot of violence and oppression related to being transgender, and we want to celebrate the lives of people that have been lost, and we want to move forward in hopes that these sorts of things don't happen at home, nationally, or within the rest of the world. I think that it's really important to get out to smaller communities, especially, past the overpass, so that we can relate and connect with the leaders within the communities, because you guys are going to be the ones that push for social change, not just by lobbying, but by leading by example and portraying an atmosphere of nurturing and support and acceptance. I think that, especially being from a small area myself, I know that things don't happen right away. Everything is a little baby step, and everything doesn't change all at once. One person being educated and becoming more familiar, or meeting a trans person, can help create a positive environment. When we're able to show support for the trans people and LGBT people within our communities, they're able to be empowered and to contribute to our communities, making a prosperous, healthy, and thriving community, which raises Newfoundland up to the forefront of Canada, which is really important for us. I want to say that just because you're not trans, it doesn't mean you can correct someone when they say something that you think might be inappropriate. It's a really good opportunity actually to educate someone who may not have known the difference otherwise. We just recently got back from a T-Door event in Springfield, where you might be familiar with Western by pastor out there. Basically, it assumed to alienate transgender people and anyone who fit outside normal gender binary. We saw that article as an opportunity for education, and even though it is free speech to publish things like that, it's also an opportunity to talk about where free speech ends and hate speech begins.
Yes.
And sometimes those lines are a little bit blurry, and whether or not something is legal doesn't necessarily mean that it's right to do. So as individuals within the community, we can take our own practices and apply those to the people in our lives, and talk about what we might think is acceptable and what we think is not acceptable, and lobby for change within our communities. A big thing that is facing trans people in our province right now is accessibility to healthcare. A lot of transgender persons who elect to go further physically in their transitions are referred outside of province and are often forced to pay for procedures on their own. This is very expensive, could range from $20,000 to $200,000, depending on what kinds of surgeries are required. Right now, there's a gentleman named Chris Hickman who is putting around a petition that's attached to the little pamphlets that you guys have today. Basically, he's asking the general public to come together as a strong, positive force to talk to the government about what we can do to make healthcare accessible to all persons in Newfoundland, and make sure that people aren't held back emotionally, spiritually, physically, and economically by a condition that they can't help. So basically, we're asking you guys to be leaders within your communities. We're very, very happy that you came out this evening, and I couldn't be more proud sort of questions that you might have, even if you think it sounds absolutely stupid. The very first step is to become educated about an issue so that you can go forth and spread a positive message.
Here, here.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Before we read out the names, is there anyone else that would like to say anything or ask a question, or the floor is open? Anyone who's here that's representing an organization that would like to identify themselves, feel free.
Oh, okay, yeah. Personally, well, I'm also involved with Amnesty International.
Oh, okay.
And we have different movements within and networks within the organization, and one of those networks is deals with we call our LGBT issues. So it's laid in not only just gay and lesbian ones are alive, but transgender as well, because human rights violations are committed against this group as well.
Thank you for that. You want to hold that again?
I want to say before Jennifer starts reading the names on the list that this is a partial list of the, more violent crimes that have been committed against transgender people as part of a list of actually 278 persons that have been murdered due to transphobic actions around the world. I'll say too that everything is pretty graphic in descriptions in the way that they lost their lives. So if you prefer that we didn't talk about how they died, you can let us know. And it's all actually written in your programs. And we had some small errors at our previous event as well, and we opted not to do that. We just read the names. But if you're interested in any extra information, it's all in the program, and the full list is on the website.
We're gonna light some candles, but I don't think the wind is. We've failed.
We had to use battery operated late last year.
Yeah, so
it was colder than this last year.
It was colder and we were
We did buy candles. And we did light some in the indoor.
So we can, just light something within your heart and think about these.
Got a little red light
now.
flashing there. And I mean, part of the reason they put together a list of details is to, I guess, humanize. And let us all, some of us read the newspaper or watch the news every day. And it's like we're always hearing about crimes, murders, tornadoes. What do they call the storm they had over there? Typhoons. And it's like loss of life has become ingrained in our culture to the point that we're used to it. But when you actually dig a little deeper and learn a little bit more about the person who lost their life, it kind of hits home in so many ways. And the fact that there are so many people who are being murdered just because they're trans, it's just a sad statement of the world we live in that has such, I guess, a long way to go in terms of respecting human life and human dignity.
It's unfortunate that the grim details of the murders and that of transgender people has to be kind of shown in order to see the actual darkness behind it.
And one of the scariest things you'll notice when you read the details is actually the most hateful and graphic crimes have actually happened within the United States and North America. I would imagine due to conflicting religious beliefs and things of that nature, where we've got a society that hasn't really accepted alternative gender role or identity.
And I think it's also sad to point out that the majority of these victims are nearly 20s and 30s, even teenagers. A lot of people who grew up and lived in the life of poverty, a lot of racial and ethnic minorities. The pictures kind of add value, I think, to a face to the name, shall we say. And I guess also the particular peculiarities is the high percentage of murders in Brazil, of all places, which I guess I'll knock on wood if there's any wood. There's no Canadians on this list, and that's good news. But at the same time, those risks are there. We've had reports of LGBT violent crimes in Newfoundland and Nova Scotia this year, and it's been covered by the media, and it's got a lot of people concerned. And you just never know. And I think most of these type of crimes are done out of ignorance or fears that are irrational. That's what the word phobia means, irrational fear. And so I won't read them all, but I'll pick a few and just point them out. Let's start with Rafael da Silva Tavares, age 21. 6 gunshots, killed in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Got malaria.
Talk about how it is. That would be perfect.
Okay. 30-year-old malaria from Brazil. Joelis dos Santos, age 22. Brazil. Wagner Paula Rodriguez, age 42, Brazil. Ronald Fatoza Souza, age 26, Brazil. This whole page is Brazil. Age 20, age 33, age 36. Naomi Estrada, 19, Guadalajara, Mexico, supposedly a tourist destination. Ashley Sinclair, Orlando, Florida. Palmira Garcia, 37, Venezuela. Tiffany Wesley Holder, 19, Guyana. Adana Milicar Iglesias, 20, Honduras. Daniel Ricardo Macias, 23, Mexico. Dominique Newburn, 31, California. Dwayne Jones, just 16, Montego Bay, Jamaica. It's even more sad is the amount of unknown or unidentified people. You can't even recognize them. Houston, Texas. Mexico City. Malaysia. Turkey. Diamond Williams, 31, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Place I had one of my trans surgeries. Supposedly one of the most trans-friendly cities in the United States of America.
What, in Philly?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Huge trans conference there every year.
Oh, been, never been.
Yeah. Really upsets me to see Philadelphia on this list.
No, because 1 year we went to visit Philadelphia actually. We found it very welcoming and friendly.
Oh yeah.
Fun out.
They have a whole LGBT village, and it's just a lovely community there. Shreveport, Louisiana makes a couple appearances on here. Perhaps that's not quite as surprising. Sad nonetheless. Vikiaman, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore areas also a well-known kind of trans hub in the world. Obviously, there's one person over there that's not so forgiving at times. Got Rochester, New York on here. Another California. Age 18, Brazil. Age 21, Brazil. Age 23, Brazil. They even have a 13-year-old on this list somewhere. I believe that was in the United States somewhere. Semia CC Dove is one I particularly want to raise awareness. 23 years old, Cleveland, Ohio. The media, in their reporting on Dove's passing, it was very harsh and cruel. It made her out to be someone who deserved to be murdered. And got to the point where I had people contacting me saying, Jennifer, you need to do a blog about this because it's disgraceful how the way the media in Cleveland is treating trans community. Interestingly enough, next year in Cleveland, there's the International Gay Games, which is an Olympics type of event for the LGBT community. the last two, Detroit, Michigan. And we got Richmond, Virginia. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And who knows how many go unreported. So I hope the day comes when we don't have to be doing this type of thing as a trans, I guess, event. It's a sad reminder of what goes on in the world. It's emotionally disturbing for me. I recognize the importance of doing it, though. But, I also embrace the opportunity to turn an event like this into something bigger, where we can talk about, I guess, the issues as well as let's celebrate accomplishments. We've seen a lot of great work done by a lot of trans people. Some in terms of activism, some just general accomplishments. Trans people running marathons, running for political office, doing all sorts of neat things, and we need to hear more of it. I think Rick Mercer said we need more LGBT people to stand up and celebrate their accomplishments. There's so much fear that if you're LGBT, you're not going to have a good life. And your life's not worth living. Well, that's not true. I think all of us know that.
I will do it indoors.
Yes.
I think that one thing probably I'd like to say before everyone takes off as well is that I'm really moved by the amount of young hearts and young minds that have come out here today, and I really want to stress that you guys are going to be who brings up the future in our community. So if you have a friend who is having a struggle, you want to be there to be the shoulder that they can lean on. You want to be as friendly as possible to anyone, no matter how different they are. And I'm so totally proud of all of you guys for coming out. And if you have any questions, you can go to your guidance counselors. They can get you in contact with people who answer your questions themselves. If you ever did want any more education within your schools, you can go to your teachers and your guidance counselors and tell them it's something that you would like to learn about, and they can totally go ahead to get some people to come into your schools to help you understand better and help your friends understand better too some of the struggles that the members of our communities and province and the world are combating daily. Yeah. So you have any closing remarks, Jennifer?
I've read that list, 5 times today? It's tough. At the same time, it's been an amazing day. There's an agenda on here somewhere.
Basically to say thank you, and that this was just, I guess, an introductory kind of event, and that if you would like to see a bigger presence within your community, it could be something that, you can organize things yourself, you can request us to come back. We're totally open to educating, and once the community starts to be educated, then the world goes forward a lot more smoothly. And so I'm really happy to see everybody out here, and we may be, as Jennifer I think said earlier today, maybe making another stop in December. So if anyone would like to help organize a larger event, that
Indoors.
Indoors? That would be fabulous. So thank you for bringing this up for us.
I don't know.
Last year, this is double the event we had last year, so it's amazing. Yeah.
We'll get bigger and bigger.
I've in just 1 year, I've seen Central Newfoundland come a long way in this.
There's pockets of, there's a couple Facebook groups up here. Someone actually
Yeah.
incorporated an entity.
I was a part of that.
Were you part of that?
Yes.
I don't know. And that's, I guess, another thing I'll throw in. I've been trying to get something called the Newfoundland Patient Association for Transsexual Health off the ground. And we need it's strength in numbers no matter what you do.
Yes,
And you
definitely.
form an organization, you ask for health care. Eventually government will have to be forced to react unless they want to be taken to court by systems. It's got to be hundreds of trans people. They're just not as out. We
yeah,
also
it's
stand up and ask for that
Becoming more
support.
prevalent as
Yeah.
we do more
Exactly.
things like this. And
So with the petition too on the back of your sheets, you guys can feel free to take that to your schools, take that to your places of work. If you have any questions or would like to give them back to us, Andrea Gosling, the advertiser, has all of our contact info, especially if you want to ask us any questions. So you can give those to her and she can fax them back to us. Perfect.
Andrea wanted to be here, but she's battling one of the flu bugs going around. But what can you do? But again,
Oh,
We'll be back.
Yeah.
Got a question here? Sure.
I'm Benjamin James, and I'm transgender. And at school, I've been harassed many times.
Oh my.
And I hope that there will be a change soon.
Absolutely. Are you being, what type of harassment?
Well,
Just a brag.
yeah.
It's verbal.
Just verbal comments. I think it's, yeah, I can't remember if I mentioned it at this one or at both, but it's important to once have your friends tell them. If you see someone say something, don't be afraid to have them step up to the plate and say,
And you do have a few allies
you know
in your
what,
class.
that wasn't a very nice thing to say.
There are a few allies, very fine.
So many people are afraid to just take that step and
He's
say,
got a couple of
you
good
know what,
allies.
that's
there.
better. Yeah.
What do you think, Brendan? What do you think? People being harassed. I think it's horrible.
Yeah, and I think the other question, I'm an analyst by nature, so I like to dig deep to the root of the cause. The question is, why are they harassing the person? And do they know themselves or understand themselves? 1, why are they doing this? 2, what is the impact of doing this? 3, is there a better way to act? And to be able to demonstrate that if you take a more positive approach to diversity, everyone will be better off. And being strong, and I mean, you got to find a balance. You got to choose your battles. You can't be pushed around.
Yep.
At the same time, like I've been labeled a whiner and a complainer simply because I asked for equality. So it's a tough double-edged sword to balance.
It's always
But,
important to be exactly who you want to be, and you don't
I think
have to
so.
listen to what anybody else ever says. You're your own person, and you can be whatever you want to be at any time you want to be that. And I think that, you know, what you feel inside is always right, and what people say outside is not always what they think inside either. So you can, you know, take stride and be proud of who you are and educate people who might not understand.
It's great to see someone who's a little younger than me, who's not afraid to step up to the plate. Even just coming to an event, I know that when I first recognized that I was trans, there was a sense of being terrified to even step out the door.
we were both quite a bit older when we came out, so
Still, there's
wow.
there's never an easy age. You're fortunate to discover this about yourself earlier. At the same time, it's obviously there's challenges no matter. But again, there is a community. There's trans people in every town we've been to, except for what was that first one, Arnold's Cove? There might not be any there. But people walking their dogs at 6 in the morning. I'm sure there probably is at least one trans person in Arnold's Cove.
Remember too that, you know, within our population, there at least 2% of everybody is transgender, whether they choose to express it or not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they find out when they're young, and sometimes they find out when they're old. So you think about a number like 500 people, at least 10 of those people have some feelings of being transgender. So it's totally not out of the normal. You will always find an ally no matter where you go. Even if you think it's the tiniest town in the world, you're always going to find someone who accepts you.
and also if you want to take our information, like if you ever need anything, like hers is on there, and you can get me through her, you know, Sarah through her as well. So
If you're interested and willing and able, I'd love to have you come to Springdale with us next time we head out that way.
Oh my god.
So I think that would be
yeah,
at
I know the
Go to
guidance.
that one.
I know the guidance
dynamic.
counselor want us to go back
I mean,
to talk to schools.
You could be
So.
a leader that changes the minds
Youth
of
trans issues
everybody.
is a whole separate topic that's similar yet different in other ways, and how young is too young versus
It's going to be a lot easier for
Yeah.
kids to connect. Like, I mean,
And
we're adults.
to have
You know, it's a little different.
someone that's a couple years younger than me.
You're already making a change
be as-
by expressing who you
It's
are.
powerful. You appear
Yeah,
very
it's-
comfortable and confident.
Wow.
And it's wonderful to see that. When I was even 25, I was probably the quietest, shyest, timid person you'd ever know. And
No way.
even at 33, this has forced me. No, not. I elected to transition in a very public way because I felt the education, being proactive with the education awareness would be critical in gaining acceptance. But what it's done as well is it's taught me how to get up in front of a crowd and express confidence. Even if I'm terrified, I can put that face on I can run for deputy mayor, for crying out loud, and be taken semi-seriously. 17% of the popular vote against a very tough incumbent. That sends a message to me that being trans is not an obstacle. There is the city of St. John's, maybe even right here in Grand Falls, might consider electing someone trans or not. And we all need to become leaders in our community, whether it's at the political level or the volunteer level, or just by talking about the issues, I guess. Yeah, well, it's thanks for contributing to the conversation tonight, and do get in touch if you'd like to, and we'll go from there.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yes, well, we got to get, I guess, on the go.
Yeah, we're heading back to St.
Picture of the trees with flag in front of the town hall.
Yeah, we're leaving. Yeah, we're leaving now and going back. Yeah.
You're driving back to St. John's tonight?
I got to go to work tomorrow. I work for the RNC.
Tomorrow too. This is my first vacation day in 2 years.
And we've spent this Saturday. Yes.